Hello, this is GamerX20 and welcome to Gaming Memories. Today on Gaming Memories, we're going to be tackling what I consider to be one of the hardest PlayStation 1 games I have ever played, and that game is called Pitfall 3D Beyond the Jungle. How did this game exist? Well, let me give you a brief backstory. If you're an Atari fanboy, you probably know about Pitfall. But if you're unfamiliar, I'll tell you it right now. Pitfall is one of the most memorable series back in the Atari 2600 days. Published by Activision, released on April 10th, 1982, and created by David Crane, it was one of the best-selling games in 1982, and helped define the side-scrolling platformer genre. If you played this game on present day, it's kinda outdated and a very hard game. But what do you expect? This was back in 1982, before Super Mario Bros. 1. Then there was the sequel, Pitfall 2: Lost Caverns. It was one of the last major releases on the 2600 because it was technically impressive, due to the cartridge contained a custom display processor chip, and it was released on 1984 because of the video game crash of 1983. After America introduced the NES, we had Super Pitfall, the third installment of the series, released on November 1987. It got negative reception. Why, you may ask? Watch AVGN episode 76 to find out why. Then, during the 16-bit era, we had Pitfall: The Mayan Adventures, released on November 1994 for the Genesis, Super NES, Sega CD, then later on 1995 for Microsoft Windows, 32X, Jaguar, and finally on 2001 for Game Boy Advance. Although it did gain positive reception, it was still not as great from the first two Pitfall games. But then, in 1998, Activision released the first 3D Pitfall game called Pitfall 3D Beyond the Jungle, released on February 28, 1998 for the PlayStation, and then later ported on the Game Boy Color on December 1998. And believe or not, Bruce Campbell, the one who plays as Ash from the Evil Dead trilogy, voices Pitfall Harry Jr. in the PS1 version. That's actually kinda awesome, to be exact. When this game got released, people got a mixed reception. Some people say it's good but has a hard difficulty, while others say that it's bad and not even playable due to bugs and difficulty. And we're going to tackle this game whether it's true or false. Also, how did I get this mini refrigerator treasure thingy? Well, turns out my home is actually underneath a cave, so I went digging for it. While I was digging for, like diamonds and stuff, I found this mini refrigerator that actually has this game. Pretty neat, huh? After I got this mini refrigerator, I was actually chased by a boulder and escaped. Just like Indiana Jones. Okay, enough about the mini refrigerator. So, is this one of the good hardest games, or was it one of the bad hardest games? Well, let's swing our way to the console and let's find out. Normally, I usually talk about the story and premise, but let Pitfall Harry Jr. tell you it as he narrates the plot instead.
I don't look for it. Sure, sometimes it just finds me. Like when I was swinging through the South American jungle and I saw this glimmer. Yeah, a crystal. And when I grabbed it, a rift opened up. Out popped, whoa, Mura. Cute little Moku. She started gabbing on about this pure energy stuff called Lucence that comes in 2 flavors. The blue stuff's good, and the red's no cherry. Now one Moku got a little too excited with the red Lucence and turned into the Scourge. With the red Lucence, the Scourge imprisoned all of the Mokus and put a force dome over the city. The rift started closing. Hey, beautiful girl, suicide mission, I'm in.
Enough said. Okay, now the graphics and presentation. The graphics are okay for the most part, but what do you expect? The character design of Harry Jr. seems good and well shaded. Also, the enemies have a good animate and also well shaded as well. Except for the bats, which most of the movements are stills. Overall, the graphics are okay, not amazing. Now, the presentation. The upper left bar indicates your health. If you take damage, find a health regenerator to regain your health. But you need to collect diamond shards, which is scattered throughout the levels. Otherwise, you won't regain your health. However, in the boss level, if you get a diamond shard, your health bar actually regains it inch by inch. But the boss battles is another story, so back on track. If you have a weapon, press the circle button to unleash it, but only use it by the right time. After you beat the level and onto the next loading screen, she tells you an objective what you need to do in the level. And I gotta say about the loading screen, props to them because it has a comic style and feels like flipping a page of a comic book. And last but not least, Bruce Campbell talks throughout the game. He makes one of the cheesiest lines ever.
Excuse me, swing the vine north by using that D-pad of yours. Oh, I get it. The crystals give me health.
Ah, that's better.
This must be that orb key I've heard so much about. Hey, look what I found.
Yummy.
Open or close, make up your mind.
Yes.
Hot.
Sorry, was he a friend of yours? 5 shots. Make him count.
And my favorite,
Lock and load.
yeah, and that is all for presentation. Onto the music. It isn't that special, like there are some good tunes like this. And others are kinda generic like this. decent music. Finally, onto the gameplay. The controls are a bit sluggish, but okay. You can move in 8 different directions, but however, you cannot turn on analog mode, which could have made the controls better, but oh well then. Onto the levels. When you start the game after the intro, the first level is actually a callback to the old Atari 2600 game, like the opening and closing pitfalls, rolling logs, vines that you need to swing on, and it's a jungle level, like the 2600 version. After that, you go to the ancient city level where you need to find 4 orbs to go to the caves, and there are multiple paths for each orb. Then in the cave level, your surroundings are diamonds, rock creatures, scorpions that could do this, and a blue liquid called Lucency, if I'm pronouncing it right. The Lucencies are floatable, and it kinda reminds me of the Crash Bandicoot 2 ice physics. But the only difference is that you can't stop moving, meaning that if there are pits right next to you, you'll fall down. Luckily, you could control your character while he floats, and not many levels use this kind of physics, so that's one good thing. And also, this actually happened to me earlier when I was searching the cave for diamonds.
Wait a minute, what the heck is this? Some sort of weird blue liquid thing. Nah, possibly nothing. Whoa! Wait a minute, what the heck? Hey, I didn't know these could float. Oh, well then. Wait a minute, is that Pitfall? Oh, no. Help! Somebody help! I can't move! Help! Ah! Hey, look, a fridge. I better take this back home and review it. Wait a minute, is that a boulder?
Then we have the rings that you can grab onto and swing jump to the next, but be careful, one wrong move and it's back to the beginning. The rings actually gets more trickier, like the rings might spin around and have to be in a right position to jump out of the ring, or rings that appear and disappear, and once again, you have to time it. After that, another temple level is just the same thing as level 2, but the only difference is that you need to go on top of the 4 towers, then turn on the switch, then a ring teleports you to another area, and we go on to our first boss battle. Now let me tell you this, in the normal levels, the frames are 30 frames per second, which is your typical PlayStation standards. Why am I telling you this? Because in the boss levels, the game goes on a lag for some reason. Like, this is a short level and it's not supposed to lag that much. Either 1, the bosses are huge, 2, maybe their texture is the reason, or 3, no reasons at all. Anyway, to beat the gladiator boss, you have to open the 4 valves to raise the level of the Lucency to the top of the holding tank. So basically, we're trying to drown him. Yeah, that's kinda dark. After we drown the gladiator, we go on to the mining level. This is where the difficulty gets harder, and have unfair platforms for the most part. Like in this part, I tried countless times to get up there for one issue: the camera. The camera decides whatever it wants, and you can't control it, making hard jumps difficult. And there's a fireball that you can't hit, so you have to run until it gets lost. Next level, we're inside of a volcano, and this is one of the most hardest levels ever. Like, I keep dying every single time, and God, it's frustrating. You may think after you ran out of lives, or boots in the upper right corner, you have to start all the way back from the beginning again, right? Nope, there's actually one redeeming factor, and that's the save points. If you see a memory card, go to it and save your game. Why? Because if you ran out of lives, go to the loading screen, wait, and BAM! You started all the way back at the save point. The developers know that the levels are hard, so they put save points so they don't want their players to go back at the frustrating parts over again. And I thank Luxoflux, the developers of this game, for doing that. Except for not regaining your health bar and not having 5 lives, but instead your remainder of your lives. Yippee, I guess. After the hardest level is done, she tells you that the volcano has flooded with steaming lava and Harry Jr. must reach the main reservoir of red lucency as quickly as possible. This level is also hard, but not the hardest level like the previous level. Then we go on to the second boss, which is another fire enemy. So you may be thinking, wait a minute, this is way too easy, right? Wrong. This fire snake creature is the second boss. The enemy was just his pet. How do you defeat it? Platform all the way to gather purple bullets or something because it's not in the manual. Then go all the way back to press on a button to activate a gun turret and fire on all 7 segments from the snake's body. But you only have 5 shots and have to get them again in a different section. If the snake taken 4 or 5 shots, the snake destroys half the platforms that you need to get bullets, making this more harder than you think because it took me many tries until he exploded. Now, click this annotation here so that way I won't spoil the final levels and the final boss. I'll give you 5 seconds. Okay, here we go. The next level, Harry Jr. gets captured and he is now prisoned on the jail level. But he escaped after the level starts, making it pointless. So, platform your way to escape prison and save Mira so you could stop the Scourge. Side note, there's one major glitch, and here it is.
Whoa.
Yeah, moving on. Then the next level, she tells you that the Scourge created a machine to drain energy from the Moku people and converting into red lucency. So, you need to destroy all of the machines and free the Moku people once and for all. After that, the next level is a creepy jungle surrounded with red lucency. And it's like the cave level, but the only difference is, dear lord, there's a lot of red lucency to cross through. And you have to avoid these balls of spikes for more frustration. And also multiple paths. And return of the open and closed pitfalls. And the last normal level, destroy all 10 large power crystals, no pun intended, to complete this level, and I won't lie, this level is actually good, for the most part. Once all the crystals have been destroyed, it's on to the final boss, Scourge herself. And yes, the Scourge is actually a woman the whole time, big shock. There are 3 parts. The first part is to dodge her bombs, and once her shield force is off, beat the Scourge with your pickaxe. Do it for 3 times. Then you slide down, avoiding holes and her shield bombs. The second part is just the same as the first part, but the only difference is there are lava down the floors, making precise jumps, and her strategy gets trickier. Once again, beat her 3 times. And once again, slide down to avoid holes in her shield bombs. And finally, the third part, she does a ground pound, which I don't see that, and avoid it by jumping, but at the right time, hit her 3 times. And then Mira then grabs the Scourge, and Harry Jr. does the final hit, and the Scourge has been defeated. And I'm going to let this back to Pitfall Harry Jr. to tell you the ending.
So, there you have it. I rescued the Moku people, destroyed the Scourge, saved the Earth. But you know what? It was worth it. I went home with the girl.
And now, let's go to cheats. I'm going to talk about a little bit of a few cheats, like if I push in this code for 99 lives /hugehead/weightless, then oh god Harry, you really let yourself down a notch. I'm a Harry Jr. and blah, blah, blah. I like walking around, but I'm the father of Harry Sr. and oh my god, then why? Or push in the 2D Harry code and wait a minute, where did Harry go? Oh, there you are. You're just flat. And actually want me to play the old Atari 2600 version of Pitfall. Speaking of Pitfall, push in this code and you're playing Pitfall for 2600 as a bonus game, which is awesome if newcomers have never played the original before. I played it and it's actually good. Sure, it is kinda hard, but still, I still enjoyed it. And one last thing, a demo of Vigilante 8, also developed by Luxoflux as well. And that's pretty much it. Now, let's finally wrap this up and what are my opinions about this game. So, what do I think about this game? Well, it's really, really hard, and I mean it. But dear God, it's actually challenging as well. This could even be one of the top 20 or top 10 best hardest game ever. But although there were some unfair flaws like the hit damage and you only die by into a wall, that makes no sense. But overall, it is actually a good hard game, but I'm only going to recommend to the Pitfall fans or if you like to play really hard games. But if you want to play a fun game, this is not for you. With that said, I give Pitfall 3D Beyond the Jungle a 4 out of 6. Now, you may be thinking, what? Where did you put a 6 on that? Well, I'm actually going to rechange my rating score. From now on, it's going to be ranked from 1 through 6. So, for my past episode, I give Scars a 3 out of 6. I give Disney Experiment 626 a 4 out of 6. I give Street Skater a 3 out of 6. Let me see, what else? I give Matt Hoffman Pro BMX a 4 out of 6. And finally, I give Fighting 460 for a 3 out of 6. So, yeah, that's the change of scores, and that's all. Now, if you excuse me, I actually have to return this back to the cave, because turns out there are actually mole people underneath the cave as well, and they want to get after me because I actually stole their sacred treasure. And speaking of which, oh no, that must be them right now. Well, I'll see you next time.